Yeah, so in Wales, like in other parts of the world, citizens have had to make really significant changes to the way they live and they work. We've all had to become familiar and able in using digital means of communication to stay in touch with loved ones, to work and to live our lives. So, and that's been the case for us at the Welsh Parliament as well during this period. So officials and elected representatives alike have had to make changes to the way we carry out our functions. As a Parliament, we've been using digital technology as part of our work for a number of years now, kind of pre-pandemic. And for me, digital transformation should be about using, better enabling us to fulfill our functions and to achieve our objectives. So in particular, when it comes to holding the government to account, operating as efficiently as possible, communicating to and engaging with the people that we represent, and also in terms of providing flexibility for our elected representatives. So back in 2006, when our parliamentary building, the Senedd, was built and open to the public, that building was designed to have our meeting rooms for the chamber and committee meetings to be designed in a way that members can access computers and different digital technologies. So they've been kind of used to doing that for a number of years now, and it gives them greater flexibility when working in the chamber, when supporting committees. They're able to vote electronically, and committee witnesses have been able to participate in committee meetings virtually and electronically as well over the years. Pre-pandemic as well, we've used digital technologies to engage with our citizens. So we've used online discussion forums, working with companies like Davies and Lumio, used things like web chats through Microsoft and Google, doing that to try and facilitate online deliberation with citizens to feed directly into the work of our committees for the scrutiny work that they're undertaking. So I think as a result, our journey, if you like, as a parliament to move to a more online hybrid model as a result of the pandemic has been easier. I think we've managed to hit the ground running, so to speak, when the pandemic hit. I don't feel that it required such a significant culture shift as perhaps it may have been in other parliaments. And the message, I think, from our members and demands from our members was quite clear at that time, that they wanted as little interruption as possible to our work, which has meant we've had to come up with solutions. We've met entirely virtually, we've met hybrid, and to make sure that the Welsh Parliament continues its work in holding the government to account, which becomes even more crucial during times like these of national and global emergencies. So in terms of the challenges, we haven't faced as many kind of constitutional or procedural challenges as maybe other parliaments, maybe some older parliaments will have faced. We're still quite a relatively young parliament. We've been in existence since 1999, and we're quite a small parliament as well, with around 60 members. So I think with that youth and with that size comes a bit of agility and less burden maybe by precedent as other parliaments may experience. So the challenges have mainly been technical rather than political or procedural. We used a licensed version of Zoom to hold committee and plenary meetings, which met our technical and procedural requirements. Obviously, we are a bilingual parliament. We are able to operate in Welsh and in English, so that was kind of one of the key technical requirements that we were looking for in a platform to enable us to work electronically during this period. And that enabled us then to become one of the first legislatures in the world to hold proceedings online when the pandemic hit. One of the things that we did as well is we created a voting app which enables our members, our elected representatives, to vote remotely without needing to be physically present in the chamber, which is key, obviously, as well we're holding meetings electronically. And one of the big challenges has been around the capacities, the fluctuating capacities within different teams within our parliament as a result of this. So obviously there's some teams like our IT teams in particular who've had a real surge in demand. So it's been we've had to be flexible across the organisation to reallocate staff across the business to make sure that we're able to deliver to the demand and the requirements of our members. From an engagement perspective, I think members are always really keen and eager for us to engage with citizens, and in particular those from communities and groups who traditionally tend to get involved in democracy less than others. And again, going back to the size, we've got 60 members. You're talking about around 47 really when you take government members out of that, split across 12 or 13 different committees. So their ability to go out and engage with people is less than it would be if they were working in a parliament that had a greater number of members, which means that our support as officials and the digital technology that's there to support that is more important, I would say, as a result. And we've continued to deliver engagement services during this period. So we've run online events, in-depth interviews and focus groups online to engage with people with a lived experience on issues that our committees are scrutinising. We've continued to run online workshops, presentations and events with younger people through schools and youth groups to educate them about how democracy works in Wales and how they can have their say. We developed a virtual tour of the building. We've run online events, and we actually held our first online democracy festival at the end of 2022, which we did online. So the pandemic hit at a really challenging time for us in terms of our engagement priorities. We were in the middle of delivering our first ever Welsh Youth Parliament, which is made up of 60 young people who've been elected from different parts of the country to engage with other young people, to run consultations and make recommendations to the government on issues that they'd prioritised. So that was a big challenge during that period, to try and move that project online when we'd been working face to face for the previous year with our youth parliament members. We also had a parliamentary election in May 2021, which was the first time where 16 and 17-year-olds were able to vote at a Welsh election. So yeah, we've had a number of different challenges in terms of engaging with young people in particular during this period. I think the main conclusion that I draw from my experience during this period working with the Welsh Parliament is that this global public health crisis is disrupted, but that disruption has forced us all, citizens and democratic institutions alike, to change at a greater pace than we would have otherwise. So I kind of feel that the opportunities that exist today as a result, in terms of how we involve citizens in our work and how members are supported to carry out their functions, are far greater because of this. So from an engagement perspective, the obvious one is around accessibility, enabling people to take part online as default has kind of removed different barriers in terms of geography and transport and things of that nature. It's also made it easier for people with different kind of time commitments in their personal lives to get involved. As with this event, we tend to kind of record the activity that we deliver online, so it's easier for people to engage with things after the event. In particular, if we're holding different activity, throughout the day when members tend to be able to be involved. Obviously, people are at work and lead busy lives, so having that flexibility is really, really important. We've seen significant increases in the numbers of people participating in our events and our workshops and so forth. And there's a lot more diversity as well, I think, in the makeup of the people who have been participating. So we've been evaluating those people taking part in our activity, and a far greater proportion of people are first-time participants compared to when we've been delivering things face-to-face only. Another kind of byproduct, I think, is that because our elected representatives now, who are members of the Senedd, are largely operating or have been largely operating virtually, they have a bit more flexibility themselves, which means that they have more flexibility, more opportunity to take part in things like workshops with schools. So rather than them needing to travel 2 or 3 hours to attend a school session because they need to be in Cardiff for a committee meeting or a plenary meeting, they're able to do that electronically through their computer, through their device. We've had examples where some members have attended sessions in schools from the chamber floor. So just having that flexibility has made our engagement work a lot richer for the people taking part. And we've had more access to government ministers and things like that through our Welsh Youth Parliament work as well. So there's been big benefits from that perspective. There's been obvious financial benefits as well. So the costs of that come along with delivering things face to face in terms of travel and accommodation and things of that nature has been saved, and I think it's probably been less resource heavy to deliver things online. But I think the thing we really need to be careful about is making sure that there aren't groups of people who aren't able to take part electronically and take part in online engagement. So a lot of our resource has been repurposed to try and make sure that any groups who are facing additional barriers in that way are supported to take part, or supported to take part through a different approach. I think the negatives that exist from an engagement perspective are largely around relationship building. It's far more difficult to develop relationships online than it is face to face, and people's attention spans are far shorter when it comes to attending conferences and events and things like this, compared to doing so in person. I think from a member's perspective, I think they've adapted really well to committees and plenary, meeting in a wholly virtual format, or that happening as a hybrid face-to-face and online format. And committees have been able to operate very effectively in that time. And it also means that through the voting system that we've developed, the online voting system, means that members don't have to be present in the chamber, gives them greater flexibility. As I said, especially relevant in a parliament with so few members. In terms of what the future holds, I think that there's an increasing expectation now among the public that they are able to continue to participate in things that we deliver and in life more generally, to be able to do that entirely remotely, and to be able to access recordings even when restrictions lift. So I think, at the time when we go back to whatever the new normal is, there's going to be huge opportunities there for democratic institutions like us to engage with people in a different way. So we've all been forced to upskill. We've all been forced to become familiar with these means of communication. So the key thing for us is about identifying and learning from our experiences as to what's best to do in person and what works really well online. But I foresee that we're going to continue to offer online engagement opportunities as well as face-to-face, to give people more options and greater flexibility and greater accessibility for people to do as they choose, really. I think the big consideration for us moving forward, and the thing that's going to have a really big impact one way or the other, really rests with the decisions that the members make in terms of how they prefer to carry out their functions moving forward. So our ability to operate in this way, to be able to operate entirely online, or to do a mix of hybrid online option or face-to-face entirely, has raised, I think, members and elected officials' expectations around what's possible for the future. As with everyone, I think different individual members will have different priorities. We suspect that some would like virtual or hybrid options become the norm, and this could bring benefits in terms of accessibility and management of their diaries and so forth. But it's very likely that some members will feel that wholly in-person meetings, particularly when members are on the estate in our kind of chamber debates, should return across the board. So I think that's going to be the really interesting thing, is finding out what the majority of members would prefer in terms of how they work in the future. So we've yet to kind of have that conversation with members about what the future should look like, and how they want to operate moving forward, and how we as officials and how we as a parliament should be structuring our support around that. And that decision, I think, is going to have a huge effect in terms of, from an engagement perspective, how citizens link up with their representatives. It could completely free up their ability to spend more time in their local areas and to feel better connected to constituents. We always find this tricky kind of balance between trying to promote and explain the work that members carry out in their parliamentary function, almost in scrutinising legislation and policy, versus what they do in their constituency, carrying out casework with local people and working with local groups. So yeah, the more that we can meld those two strands together, which might be far more possible if members are, more balanced in terms of working online and face-to-face, and spending a bit more time with their local constituencies. But yeah, that's very much a wait and see for all of us at the Welsh Parliament at the moment, in terms of how we deliver that support moving forward.